Hello and welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. US President Donald Trump has confirmed that the USS Gerald R. Ford will join the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Middle East. This comes as a US delegation including Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner will meet Iranian officials on February 17th. Russia, China, and Iran held a new round of consultations in Vienna to discuss Iran's nuclear program. Meanwhile, the talks precede next week's International Atomic Energy Agency Board of Governors session. The U.S. military's Southern Command conducted its second boat strike in a week, killing 3 suspected drug smugglers in the Caribbean as this brings the death toll to 133 in 39 strikes. US President Donald Trump has threatened to bypass Congress and issue an executive order to enforce voter ID laws ahead of the midterm elections. However, the proposed law has faced strong opposition in the Senate. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has revealed that Berlin has initiated confidential talks with France regarding a European nuclear deterrent. He has stressed the importance of rebuilding trust with the US amid global power shifts and Europe's security challenges. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Syrian Foreign Minister Assad Hassan al-Shaibani on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference. These two sides discussed key domestic and regional developments, reaffirming Syria's unity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. According to a statement published by the Dubai Media Office, Dubai-based logistics giant DP World has named His Excellency Essa Kazim as chairman and Yuvraj Narayan as group CEO after former chair Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem was cited thousands of times in U.S. Justice Department files detailing frequent correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein. US President Donald Trump stated that US-Venezuela relations are very good and that he recognizes Delcy Rodriguez as the official president. Trump has confirmed the US is working closely with Rodriguez, particularly in the oil sector. Now we start this hour with Europe. At the Munich Security Conference, French President Emmanuel Macron has emphasized Europe's need to become a geopolitical power capable of providing its own security. He has called for Europe to rethink its nuclear deterrent strategy, especially in light of an aggressive Russia, and to focus on long-term strategic thinking. Macron has dismissed claims that Europe was decaying and defended its efforts to address disinformation and the impact of social media on democracies. He has proposed starting consultations with European leaders on reshaping the continent's security architecture, including the role of France's nuclear deterrent. Macron has stressed the importance of Europe's taking control of its own strategic interests, especially in relation to Russia and its demands. He has also noted that the past security structures designed during the Cold War are no longer fit for the current challenges. Now we move on to US President Donald Trump has confirmed that the United States now has a very good relationship with Venezuela's interim leader, Delcy Rodriguez. Trump has praised the oil cooperation between the two nations, saying US oil companies are extracting and refining Venezuelan oil, benefiting both the US and Venezuela. While President Trump has emphasized that these efforts are aimed at benefiting the Venezuelan people too, while managing assets for their long-term welfare. He has also revealed plans to visit Venezuela soon, though no date was provided. Let's listen into what US President Donald Trump has shared.
When are you planning to visit Venezuela, sir?
I'm going to make a visit to Venezuela.
When?
Are you from Venezuela?
From Colombia, sir. We share a border with Venezuela.
We just had a good meeting.
We have our big oil companies going in. They're going to be taking out the oil and selling the oil for a lot of money, and Venezuela is going to get a big part of that money. And the relationship we have right now with Venezuela is, I would say, a 10.
On Venezuela, will you be recognizing Delcy Rodriguez's government as the official government?
Well, right now we have done that. We're dealing with them. And really, right now they've done a great job. Delcy's done a very, very good job, and the relationship is strong. The oil is coming out, and a lot of money is being paid to oil by other nations, and we're taking care of it. We're refining it, and we're the only one that has the capability to refine it. Right now, the relationship with Venezuela is as good as it could possibly.
In a significant move, the U.S. Treasury Department has waived sanctions allowing companies like BP, Chevron, and Shell to operate in Venezuela's oil sector. Additionally, over 6 tons of medical supplies were sent to Venezuela as part of the efforts for the country's stabilization and recovery. Now we welcome Ambassador Suresh Goyal. He's a former Indian diplomat, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Ambassador Goyal, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now looking at this, as the legitimacy of Rodriguez now seems to be building up, how should she balance U.S. pressure and Venezuela's sovereign interests and avoid becoming a yes man to U.S. demands?
Very difficult question. I think after the action by the USA in Venezuela, removing the former President Maduro and installing, I'm using the word installing rather deliberately because she could not have become president without acquiescence from President Trump. Installing the new president or acting president, whichever way you want to put it, in Venezuela. I think what is important is that Venezuela will have to work very hard to get out of the economic difficulties after USA had put sanctions on the sale of oil from Venezuela, and the prices of oil had come down tremendously. And oil is the main basis of the Venezuelan economy. So when you ask me how should she or how can she maintain the sovereignty of Venezuela and the dignity, if I can put, while at the same time accommodating the USA, I would say it's a very difficult situation. She has taken action to essentially placate Trump in all possible manners, freeing the political prisoners, allowing the US companies to come into Venezuela to exploit oil economy. So on the whole, I would say that she will have to essentially walk a very tightrope balance as far as the USA is concerned. But it's a very difficult situation, and she will have to really accommodate Trump's diktats or Trump's decisions. That's all I can say.
Thank you for highlighting that. And does this mean it is over for the political ambitions for Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado, even after she gave President Trump her medal? Hi, Ambassador Goyal, can you hear me? We seem to have lost some connection. But
hello?
Can you hear me? Yes,
yes,
I can hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me repeat my question. So does this mean it is over the political ambitions for Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado, even after she gave President Trump her medal?
I doubt very much. I think Trump made it quite clear right in the beginning that he does not find her fitting the bill to assume the presidency of Venezuela. And even after she did make the action of presenting her Nobel Peace Prize to Trump. I think Trump knows very well that ultimately, for having the power stability in Venezuela and a functioning government, the former deputy president is much more capable than Machado, who does not have any experience of the government. So I think for the time being, it is going to be the current acting president and not Machado.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador Goel, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you. Now, moving on, an Indian man accused of plotting to kill a Sikh separatist leader in New York has pleaded guilty in U.S. federal court. Nikhil Gupta admitted to murder for hire, conspiracy to commit murder, and money laundering. He now faces up to 40 years in prison. Prosecutors say the target was Gurpatwant Singh Panun, an American citizen and a leading advocate for the Khalistan movement, which calls for an independent Sikh homeland in India. U.S. authorities alleged Gupta was directed by an Indian government official and tried to hire a hitman who turned out to be an undercover agent. India has strongly denied any involvement, but Panun says the guilty plea confirms a state-sponsored assassination plot on American soil. The case is now raising serious diplomatic and security questions across 3 countries. Now we welcome back Ambassador Suresh Goel. He's a former Indian diplomat, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for staying with us. Now, looking at this, as the allegations are made even to connection to government of India, what are we to make of this?
I think this question will be going into purely speculative kind of an answer. I know when a person like Nikhil Gupta or anybody who is being tried in the US court pleads guilty, it is a matter of long negotiations between the legal authorities in the USA and the person on trial or the attorneys who are representing the person on trial. So in this case also, it must have been a long negotiation, and the terms of what the US legal authorities have agreed to in return for him to plead guilty are not known. So we know that he has pleaded guilty, but does it mean a reduced kind of a sentence for him? Does it mean the other allegations of links or supported by the Indian security agencies or at the incitation by the Indian security agencies, are those going to remain on the books of the US legal authorities? Is not at all clearly known. But what I do hope is that given the important relationship between India and the USA, that the security agencies from India will not be dragged into the case unnecessarily at the expense of the relationship.
Right. And,
Yes.
and Ambassador Goel, this Khalistan topic or news comes in with not just between India and US, but Canada and India, and also New Zealand and India's relationship. How do you think this is evolving or affecting international relations of India?
As I said, Canada has already, of course, has already announced the Sikh for Justice as the terrorist organization, and therefore any action against the representatives or the people belonging to that organization will not make any legal case against India. So I think Canada, New Zealand also is not pursuing the case very vigorously, and they realize that there is very little by way of evidence in those cases to state without any doubt firmly that Indian agencies were involved in the cases. That leaves only the USA for the time being, and let us see what actually the whole part of the deal is in this case, and whether the USA will be taking out any involvement by the Indian security agencies in the case as a matter of the final prosecution.
With that, I'd like to thank Ambassador Suresh Goel for joining us and sharing that insight. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Trump. President Donald Trump has publicly endorsed Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban ahead of the country's upcoming election. Praising him as a strong and powerful leader, in a post on Truth Social, Trump has credited Orban with achieving phenomenal results for Hungary, particularly in creating jobs, protecting the economy, and addressing illegal immigration. President Trump has emphasized that, like him, Orban has tirelessly worked for his country's prosperity, despite Orban's controversial relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin. President Trump has stressed their shared values and strong cooperation. According to reports, a recent poll data from the IDEA Institute shows that Orban's party is trailing by 10 percentage points to the opposition party TITSA. This endorsement follows Trump's continued support for Orban's policies, particularly his stance on immigration and national security. Now we welcome Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Dr. Nagao, for joining us again. Now, looking at this, why is President Trump has suddenly started to endorse foreign leaders or in foreign elections, like he did it with Prime Minister Takaichi of Japan and now with Orban? And how is it going to affect Orban in this case?
In this case, it has started President Trump sworn in the second term last year. There are many leaders in the world was supported by President Trump during the election campaign. So, view from these countries, it looks like the U.S. is improving the election, but at the same time, they won the election in many places. So that's why there's no complaint about this. This is indeed relatively good for them if they win. But why he did such kind of thing is a little bit interesting and strategic one. Indeed, view from the President Trump, there is a high possibility that the world order was based on the right versus left. So that's why the right-wing government or a little bit moderate political right are welcome for the President Trump. But the middle or left or the political left, these are not welcome. And indeed, President Trump did not mention about this too much, but it is clearly that the right negotiation is working well relatively. For example, America and Italy, America and Argentina, America and Japan. But the left or middle negotiation is failing many places or facing difficulty, especially the America and Europe's negotiation about Greenland or NATO. Every time they face the problem because two government is right or the right-middle negotiation or right-left negotiation, and that could happen many places because EU itself, the idea is quite liberal world order, and this is the ideology the President Trump leads Republican dislike. So that's why indeed this is very important. The Cold War in the past is US versus Soviet Union, which is capitalism versus communism or something like that, or liberal democracy versus communism, something like that. But now, the view from the President Trump, one of the aspects of the world order is right versus left. So right wing has the advantage and left wing faces difficulty is happening in many places.
Right.
And this started last year. So because, for example, the tariff, when Brazil negotiated with the United States, the U.S. imposed tariffs against Brazil, even if U.S. get a high benefit during the trade with Brazil. What happened? Because Bolsonaro, the President Trump believed right-wing politician is facing difficulty in Brazil, and he tried to save him. So President Trump tried to save former President Bolsonaro. So that's why, indeed, this is one of the common issues last 1 year. So Honduras, Chile, Japan, Italy, Argentina, many places in the world, this is the new common pattern of the U.S. policy.
Thank you for highlighting that. And what has Orban achieved and what differentiates him from his rival party, the opposition party, TITSA?
His President Orban's way of thinking is a little bit authoritarian style European belief. And but a Hungary first policy, that is true, not share too much to the EU or something like that. So Orban versus EU is happening in Europe. And view from President Trump, this is right versus left. So that's why the right is his group and very close relation with President Orban. So Trump-Orban alliance against EU, which is a liberal world order style. That is idea current U.S. Administration. Current U.S. administration's perception toward the world order is based on this right versus left as a very important part of the strategy, I think.
Thank you for highlighting that, Dr. Nagao. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. We have a breaking news coming in from Bangladesh. Bangladesh's interim leader, Muhammad Yunus, has congratulated Tariq Rahman on his party's landslide victory, marking a significant step in the country's political transition. Yunus, who has served as the country's chief advisor since the August 2024 uprising, praised Rahman's leadership and expressed confidence that he would guide Bangladesh towards greater stability, inclusiveness, and development. Now Yunus is set to step down and hand over power to the newly elected government. His latest statement reflects the peaceful handover of leadership as the nation moves forward into a new chapter under Rahman's leadership. Now we move on to US. President Donald Trump has said that the investigation into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie was slowed because the local sheriff's department did not want to give up control, but says progress is now being made with the FBI involved. Speaking at the White House, Trump has called the case complicated and said it is too early to say whether cartels or a foreign actor are involved. His comments come amid growing scrutiny of the Pima County's Sheriff's Department after reports federal investigations faced delays accessing key evidence. Sheriff Chris Nanos has strongly denied those claims. A major break came with the release of new surveillance footage recovered by the Federal Bureau of Investigation showing a masked individual on Guthrie's porch the night she vanished. The White House says the president was disgusted by the video as investigators and the family continue their urgent search for answers. Now for this, we welcome back Dr. Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at Hudson Institute, joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Dr. Nagao, for staying with us. What more can you tell us about this abduction case that's ongoing?
In this case, a little bit difficulty to identify what happened. But at least one thing is right, she is a journalist of the NBC News. So that's why this could be the political people doubt it. But at the same time, until now, what happened, people identify is she was abducted and the purpose is not clear. In the midnight, two guys who has a gun enter her house, and after that, she has gone from the house, and so there is no sign to arrive. But at the same time, what really happened is still under investigation. So this could be just a crime of the robbery, and in this case, the local police should take charge. But if this is politically motivated and affecting something news-related issue, this could be the political. So that's why the FBI was as the business welcome. So that's why this is people are focusing on. But still, this is under investigation, and we cannot say anything with evidence so far.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nagao, for joining us today and sharing that insight with us on NewsX World. Now we move on. The U.S. government has entered a partial shutdown after Congress failed to pass the funding needed to keep the Department of Homeland Security operating. Lawmakers hit a deadlock over Homeland Security funding, largely because Democrats refused to approve the bill without new reforms to ICE following controversial enforcement tactics and recent fatal shootings in Minneapolis. While most federal agencies remain funded, the shutdown affects DHS agencies including TSA, FEMA, and the Secret Service, which may now face furloughs or service disruptions. Transportation Security Administration officers will likely continue working, but without pay, raising concerns about staffing shortages and longer airport security lines during the busy travel season. ICE and U.S. Customs and Border Protection operations are expected to continue temporary because of prior funding. Lawmakers remain divided and negotiators have so far been unable to resolve the dispute, leaving key Homeland Security functions at risk until the deal is reached. Now we move on to New Zealand. New Zealand is bracing for further storm damage after devastating floods swept through the Otorohanga district, causing power outages, road collapses, and evacuations. One person was found dead in a vehicle submerged on a highway. Authorities have declared a state of emergency in the region, with heavy rains expected to continue over the weekend. Winds of up to 120 kilometers per hour and waves reaching 22 feet are set to impact areas including Wellington and the North Island's east coast. As of February 14th, about 80 people have been evacuated and emergency services are providing support to affected residents. Authorities are urging locals to stay home and avoid floodwaters as they assess the extensive damage. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news and updates from around the world.